All right, I think we are good to go. I at least hope so. Let's see. Oh, the streaming app thing I used, they changed it, so give me a second to validate here. Uh, what is going on? Okay. I, s- I'm assuming it's working. I don't, I don't know. All right, let's just go as if it is. All right, cool. Just got confirmation. All right. So last week we were working on Go Rust and we were getting a TUI application so that we can create an alternative to Postman. And this is something that I've wanted for a while. It's funny because shortly after that, the internet showed me an application that does just that. So let's take a look at that. So this is attack something. Uh, and this is a Postman alternative to be able to do everything in the command line, and it is built in Rust and uses the Ratatui framework. So it's like it's here, it's available. It basically does exactly what we want to do. Uh, I haven't got a chance to use this yet. I do want to try it. I just saw this the other day. Interestingly, they have a chart at the bottom. This is their chart of stars. So couple of days ago is whenever it just went off the chart, basically, of stars. And that was around the time, just a couple of days after I found this. So it went viral in a sense. So um, this is available for you to use today if this is a thing you are interested in. It looks fairly feature complete. I mean, looking at it here, it's like they have collections based on auth, based on using cookies, different environments, and then other stuff. I'm assuming this is a configurable collection that they want to do. You can do different things. Anyway, very cool, very cool. Um, so what does that mean for this video series? Well, that means I'm probably not going to do as feature complete of a system as I had originally planned in my head. I was a little nervous about spending a lot of videos on this to do all like the little minute features. But we're not going to stop doing it because the alternate goal I had was twofold. One, it was to learn a TUI framework so that I could make other terminal UI applications in the future. The other goal that I had is to try to push around and do stuff and needing the borrow checker. Um, I feel like I feel like that's a hole in my understanding of what's going on in Rust, and so that was another side goal of this. I have plenty of other project ideas to do Rust, but we are not going to stop from this for a little while because I feel like this is still a good opportunity. And who knows, I could start to use this and not like something specific, and so I want to create something myself. So we still might not abandon it. But I just wanted to put out that this is available today that you can use, and I definitely recommend you check it out. So, with that in mind, let's jump back over here and let's see where we left off. So, we started off, we have our main file, and we have our main application, and we're trying to do, again, Ratatouille. Um, we have basic, like, set up to get the console into a position that you want to do, and then you have to tear all of that down so that you can get back to doing what you're doing. Then for the case of the application, we did the Ratatouille tutorial for doing a JSON editor. There's some post-run things so that it prints out JSON. The kind of, so to me, from line 27 to 45 here is all boilerplate. It's all basic boilerplate code. So the real magic happens right here in 35 and 36. So this is an app that you can set up for structure, and then the run app, pass in the application in a terminal that you want to run it in. I think, yeah, run app is a thing that we wrote. So let's get reacquainted and kind of dive in and look out and figure out what's going on. So one of the things that I wanted to hit tonight is, hey, we're actually able to run this thing. So let's run it. And let's say I want to create there we go. Hello world. There we go. And then create a new one. Foo bar enter. Cool. Now we're done with this queue. So now we get a modal basically that pops up to confirm. Yes. And then it outputs our JSON. So we can do whatever we want, like in a sense after that we can, because that's this part right here is outputting and printing. So let's go ahead and look at the app structure again as kind of a refresher. There we go. And so we're doing key input. So key input in this case is the key of the JSON value, or the key of the JSON object. The value input is kind of, this is going to store in there. Pairs is a hash map. String and string, which would be the key value pair. Current screen. So this is the screen that the current user is looking at. Current screen. So, okay, so main would be that big, let's see, let's do cargo run. So main would be this screen. And then editing is when we do edits and we're on this screen. And then here we have 7, which is exiting. So this is when we do a queue and it's popping up this. So those are the screens, and we're going to switch back and forth between those. Currently editing. So this is optional because we're not always going to be editing, but we will always have a current screen. Makes sense. So when we instantiate a new application, is that the right word? When we create a new struct, are we instantiating, is that a new object? I mean, is that basically what's happening? Like, sorry, like total, like, I don't even know if I'm using the right terminology, but let's go with it for now. So we're creating a new application. App, which is the struct. We're implementing the struct. Key input, value input. We're setting to strings that we can modify. Pairs is a hash map of pairs. So screen, so we're setting by default the main screen, and we're not editing anything, so we're setting it to none. Makes sense. So when we go to save a key, we're just cloning the data and pushing it into pairs. And then once that's done, we're saying, hey, we need new strings in this. So then it invalidates it. So it resets it basically. And then currently editing is none. So that, yeah, so I guess it currently editing. Yeah, because we're not doing anything. So toggle editing. So I'm not 100% sure what calls this, but let's take a look at it. So if there is an edit mode, and it is currently editing. Okay, here we go again. If currently editing is set to something and is not none, then we'll pull that out and we have edit mode. Now we want to match edit mode. And if edit mode currently editing is key, then we're going to take the value. Then we're going to set currently editing to value. Or wait, what? Set currently. If key. To be honest, I'm a little confused by this, but it works. So let's move on, and we'll probably come back to it. Toggle editing. We're gonna come back. I guess this is if there's nothing. I'm the I don't know. Print JSON. So this is just the final. We're doing Sarah JSON to take the hash map and output it because that's what it is. So with this, you're not going to be able to do nested JSON with this app, which is fine. This is just an example for us to try to get a better familiarity with what's going on. So now that we have that, wait, is that it? Yeah. Okay. So let's go to main again. Yeah, here we go. Run app. All right, here we go. So we have a run app. It's going to be terminal, and then the app that we're passing it, and then the loop. The loop starts. So the interesting thing about loop is this is an infinite loop, and it's kind of interesting to be brought in as a Rust construct to have an infinite loop. It's just fascinating. So we're going to set the terminal draw. So we're going to draw the current state of the app, and we set the defaults to be the main. So there's that. Next, we're going to listen to key events. If there's a release of a button, so I think it's an up action, then we'll just continue on with the loop. Don't do anything. If it's not, out of curiosity, reads a single event. Combine it with the poll function to get non-blocking reads. Print events. Interesting. Okay, what? All right. So we're getting an event. We're gonna read. Where? So we get this key event here. We're setting the key event. Oh, okay. Then we're matching the current screen, and if the current screen is main, there we go. Then we're going to match the key code. If the key code is E for edit, we're going to set the current screen to editing and currently editing to the key first. Okay. If we do Q, then we're setting the current screen to exiting. Otherwise, just do nothing. Okay. Then it's going to do another loop, and it's going to check state. And it's going to be like, oh, so say we're exiting. Oh, now we're on exiting. Cool. Now that we're on that screen, let's match what the key code is of Y, and then we'll return OK true to the app, and then we're exiting. We're done. If it's N, then we're going to return false, and nothing is going to happen. It shouldn't. Oh, interesting. Okay. Why does that work? Maybe that. Why does that work? Okay, so if we go run out, we return false. I don't understand. I don't understand. Okay, let's move on. Okay. That's come back later. Interesting. Okay. Moving on, if we have a press event. Oh, that's interesting. So for an editing mode, and we have a key press event, I think this is where it's going to get interesting. Oh, I see why they did it. So exit, and main are kind of the easy ones. So let's get that kind of out of the way. Now, out of curiosity, let's do here. Yeah, this is a big one. This is going to be fun. All right. So now we have a key press event. Okay, so now we do key.kind, the kind of event. And it's a press event. And we're in the currently editing because that's what we're matching on. Ooh, that's a rough piece of syntax right there. Then we're going to match the code. If it's enter, it's not how my brain would have processed that, but it kind of makes sense. Then if we hit the enter key and currently editing is not none, then we're going to set that value to match. And if we're on the key value, then we're going to set currently editing to value. If we're on value, we're going to call the application key value saved because we passed in the app in the beginning of the function at the beginning. So yeah, so everything needs to run through that. So hold on, let me. We're in. Yeah. So we passed in at the top of the function. So we always have available this save key value function available because that's going to be a step that needs to take place in our app. So that means when we're doing a thing with over here with our application and an event needs to happen, then we need to make sure that we have a function available in the application to be able to do it, or something that is passed in, not necessarily just an application. This just gives us an idea. I know it's fairly basic, but I'm just being like, hey, how do you differentiate this? So what I'm trying to track through right now, how do you differentiate between the application that's running and the user interaction? So as an example, in web development, you have front end and you have back end, generally. On the front end, you have your interaction with the back end code that is completely separate from the interaction with the user. And they just connect with function calls. So that's what this is. Over here, oh crap. Wow, okay. This over here is me interacting with the user. This is the HTML elements. This is the user interface. But I need to be able to call functions to interact with the back end. So if I'm doing fetches to the back end code, or if I'm calling some other thing to do a thing, that's where this code is. So that's where that separation of concerns is. And I'm trying to understand, in this case, how that interacts. So that's why I'm kind of going down the duh route on some of this. So anyway, so if we hit enter and and we're in the value field, then we're going to call that save over there, which adds it to the key, to the pairs. Then, which is the state of the application. Then we're going to change the current screen to main. So we're going to go back to main. It's going to go through another loop and double checks the state. And now we're in a basic state. Okay. Now, if we're in the editing mode and we hit backspace, oh, interesting. Ooh. So on the currently editing, if there is something there, then we're popping out of the string. Wow. Okay, I did not expect that. But that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. In kind of your other type of user interface develop. You know what? I just realized I have my air conditioner running. I hope that is not. Oh my gosh. I bet that's been super annoying this whole time. I'm sorry. So, based on this, yeah, okay, back to it. So, in this case, we are running the application and we have to store the information that the user is inputting into something. It doesn't just go off into the abyss. In kind of your traditional type of frameworks, when you have a text field, like you have a character field, text field, or whatever, yeah, it's providing that thing, but it's also providing the interactive element that you're typing into that provides this functionality. We have to write this functionality. Interesting. So yeah, so in this case, when we press a key, yeah, down here, this is where I was looking for. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My brain would have put the backspace after this, but if we hit any other character, if we had a character, ooh, interesting. I wonder if this is a character like A, B, C, D, 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 D. Let's look at that. Kiko character brings us to character. I will assume it is what I was thinking, but whatever. Okay. So in this case, it's doing the same thing. We are pushing the character into the string that we are setting currently for the key. And then we're here and here. So that way when we hit backspace, we check at what we're at currently editing, and we're popping it off the stack. Or, well, stack, I say stack. Kind of what it is. Or would it be? Not going to talk about it right now. You'd be pushing it in, popping it. So it'd be a stack. First in, first, or would it be Q? Q. It'd be no. It'd be a stack. It'd be a stack. Stop, buddy. Stop. Okay. No, sorry. I find that interesting. Like I'm not used to interacting with UI elements in this manner, and so it's very interesting from a mind perspective to change how I'm looking at it. Okay, so we have that down. So if we're in the escape, and if we hit escape, we're resetting. Just reset. Okay. And then if we hit tab, we're toggle. Oh, okay. Toggle editing. Okay, that makes sense. So now that makes sense. So let's do edit, and I'm hitting tab right now. Makes total sense. Okay, so let's go back to toggle. That means when we hit a button, and because we're gating the tab, that's where it was. I didn't know where it was. Since we're gating here on tab, now we're saying, hey, whatever we're currently editing has to be set to something. So whatever it's set to, let's get it. And if it's key, then we want to change the value. And if it's value, I was looking at this originally as toggle editing was when we were in this mode and we wanted to go back to this mode. So yeah, this is, I'm curious. Sorry, a little sidetrack. This is a This is about edit which field we are editing between key and value, not the screen. Yeah, no, not which. Yeah, screen we're on. Yeah. Okay, now if okay. Let's see. Okay. I apparently have no idea what I'm doing. If I do this. Okay, it does not like that. Now what do I do? Oh yeah. Okay, now I know. 3 slashes give you your documentation. So now when I open it up to inspect it, I get that little extra documentation. Cool. All right. So I think I have a real, I think I have a, I was about to say, I think I have a really good understanding. I think I have an understanding of what we need to do. And it makes sense. From an app perspective, what we are doing. Now comes the fun part. Figuring out the user interface. Just as an aside, I am terrible at user interfaces. So this is going to be an interesting look. So let's close this out. Also, now that I'm looking at it, hold on. Let's go down to the end. Yep, that's it. So yeah, we covered all of it. I think we have an understanding of what's going on. Terminal. What's terminal is this? Terminal. This is from Ratatui terminal. So this is the abstraction on top of, say, a cross term or other things. So I think we're good on that. Then we want, but how is it? So we're passing in the terminal and we're passing in app. Module UI. Okay. So where are we using UI? Oh, there it is. Okay. So when we draw, we're using this closure to pass in the application down into the user interface that we're drawing. Okay. Okay, here we go. So we're telling the terminal to draw the user interface. I don't understand this closure here. All right, let's go here. And we don't have a return type. Awesome. Frame. That's what it is. I do not like abbreviations like that because it is confusing to me. But I'm sure I would be changing this in a lot of locations, so I'm not going to change it over here yet. All right. Okay. I thought I understood closures in Rust, but apparently I do not because I am confused. Synchronizes terminal size, calls rendering closures, flushes the current internal state, and prepares for the next draw call. This is the main entry point for drawing to the terminal. Yep, called that based on the code and how we understand the other interaction works. The changes drawn to the frame are applied only to the current. After the closure returns, the current buffer is compared to the previous buffer and only changes are applied to the terminal. What? The current buffer is compared to the previous buffer and only the changes are applied to the terminal. So like That, I'm gonna be honest, that confuses me. Um, I'll let my brain async think on this. So, oh, I got a comment on YouTube over here. Jamie, hi. I see you're using Zalige. I think Zalige is how you pronounce it. I've been thinking about giving it a try, but as an NBIM user, I understand that some shortcuts are not that compatible. What are your thoughts on it? I've seen that comment many times, but maybe I'm just an odd user. I haven't actually hit that issue. I mean, I can go through just fine, you know. I mean, I can navigate just fine. I mean, Control W, like to change the window, uh, and create new tabs. And the things that I need to do, I've been just fine. And then when I need to flip from session to session, as an example, I mean, it just works with it. I use Tmux bindings. I'm used to the default Tmux bindings. I had the opportunity when I switched to Tmux when it was first coming out, and I was like, I have a choice between Screen and Tmux, because I just found out what a terminal multiplexer was. I was like, well, I don't have any habits of either one, so I'll just use default Tmux, and so that's what I use. And so I'm just Control B moving around. Uh, and I just really haven't had any issues. I don't like split panes like this. And then but that doesn't mean I can't do it. But then it's also Control B H, Control B L, Control, to go back and forth. So that's just how I use it. Like, I built that muscle memory to where they don't conflict with each other. So that's kind of my quick answer on Tmux, Zalige, and Vim. Hopefully that helps. All right, back on this. So it's talking about that each frame. Yeah, no problem on that. I hope it helps. Each frame. The only thing I could think is like each new buffer. Uh, I wonder. Okay, this is speculation on my part, and this is something we'll figure out as we go through. I wonder if it doesn't do a wipe every time, and we can probably catch that based on the exit screen as we're going through this. I'll bet it on a wipe does not clear it away. Sorry, I'll bet it does not wipe the screen unless you tell it to wipe the screen. So yeah, so now we're on the current frame. We're going to render it out for each loop based on stuff and things. All right. I think that's a rough understanding. Let's keep moving through that. All right. So we have the UI, we have chunks, layout. Okay, so we're building out okay. Man, this reminds me of GTK. And just kind of others where you do like a vertical layout. Let's see, what is it? V box and H box, and you're and then insert into those, and you're gonna do a V box in your H box, just kind of that fun stuff. I bet that's what this is gonna be. All right, so we have the direction, so a vertical. So let's actually open this up. Cargo run. Yeah, I can see that. So right in here, this is all probably a V box, a vertical, and then I will bet there's a thing in here and a horizontal here. Maybe this might just be a full element, and then maybe a horizontal with two elements inside of that. Let's take a look. All right. What are constraints? Set constraints of the layout. The constraints of the layout. Array slide. Okay. Note that the constraints are applied to the whole area that is to be split. I'm not 100% sure what's going on here. Constraint length of 3, min of 1. Maybe that constraint, a constraint that defines the size of a layout element. Constraints can be used to specify a fixed size, a percentage of the available space, a ratio of the available space, a minimum or maximum size relative. Man, like my brain is like, what? Okay. Create a layout, specified lengths for each element, from lengths, from ratios. We'll figure this out later. Split. What is split doing? Wrapper function around cassowary RS solver to be able to split a given area into smaller ones based on preferred widths and height. And interesting. Cassowary. I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm gonna write that down. To do cassowary RS. Okay. A length of 3, a minimum of 1, and a length of 3. No idea. Let's move on. Title block. So we're gonna have block default. So the top, we're gonna have borders around all the sides, I'm assuming. Style, I would probably, the default style. I'm not gonna worry about that. Paragraph is new. Create, okay. So we have the title block. So that's gonna probably be this little border here. Then we're gonna do a paragraph that says, hey, we want some text in there. We want to style it to whatever, give it a color, and we're going to put the title block inside of the paragraph. Okay. Interesting. Let's read that. Surround the paragraph widget with a block. That is interesting. So I guess you set up a style for that block, and then you're assigning a block to it. But I'll bet you that's optional. Move on. That's just interesting. Loading this all into the head. Then we're going to render on the frame. We're going to render the widget in the so okay, that's what I was wondering, if we're splitting this into chunks and we're saying, hey, we're going to have 3 chunks. We're going to have a minimum of 1, but maybe we're going to have 3 by default. I don't know. That's kind of how I'm reading it. Totally wrong. But hey, we're going to render the thing in up there in that first. Okay. Next, we want list item. I don't know. Man, that's weird. Okay. List item. Where's list item coming from? List. Okay. List item is a Ratatui UI element. Okay. So in that, we're going to say, so we need a list. So I'll bet a list is coming. Which is interesting because I remember the Visual Studio, when I was doing C# WinForm stuff. Yeah, you would need to build a list. And then each list would have an element inside of that called a list item. And the list item would have various attributes associated with that. One of those being like format or something. I mean, that was 15 years ago. I'm trying to pull that out of my brain. Okay, so for each of the key in our application, and again, we're going to run this every single time on every single loop that we're rendering the UI. So it's just whatever the state is. So we're going to push a new list item, which is going to have a line. Maybe a line of text consisting of one or more span. Interesting. Okay, so line from, then we're doing a styled span. And then we're doing the key. Oh, okay. I'm like, what? We're doing a format. Okay. And then we're styling that, and we're going to color it yellow, foreground color. The text is going to be yellow. Okay. So now after that, we have a list of items that pretty much do us no good at this point. Then there it is. There it is, a list. And we're putting a set of list items in there. Creates a new list from list item. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to render it. Yep. And we're going to render it in the second chunk. What? Which is this section here. Gotcha. I win. I wonder. I'm not going to play with it right now. Okay. So let's... Man, I feel like that should be there. Whoops. That should be there. Okay, now we're going to be on to navigation, which is this chunk. So let's break it down. We're going to have some sort of horizontal thing. We're going to have some sort of element thing. And we're going to have 2 paragraphs. And we're going to have a block around it that's going to be styled. We're going to set a foreground color to yellow. And then we're going to set a foreground color to gray. Over here, we're going to set a foreground color to red. We're going to add a block to each of these. And we're going to stuff both of these at the end into the chunk, the third chunk, which is the index of 2. I am predicting that's what's going to happen. All right, match current screen. Of course, you're going to throw me a curveball right away. Okay, we're creating a new vector. Current navigation text, which is a vector. Oh. Interesting. So if I do E, yeah, that makes sense right there. We're doing editing mode, editing JSON. Okay. Cancel. Tab to switch box, enter to play. Okay, yeah. Nice. You almost got... You did get me. But I think we're on the right track. All right. Current session. And we're going to do a bunch of stuff. And we're going to return the span styled by foreground color of green, foreground color of yellow, foreground color of light red for main, editing, and exiting. So those are the screens, obviously, because it's current screen. 2 owned. I don't know why we're calling that. 2 creates owned data from borrowed data, usually by cloning. Okay. Yeah, remember the borrow checker stuff? This is it right here. This is the stuff that that I need to learn and why we're doing this project. So we have a white divider bar to separate the 2 actions. Yep, right there. Sets it to white. The span, interesting. Okay, so if we're currently editing, so this is setting. Interesting. So it built. Did it? Span style, normal mode, editing mode, span styled. Okay. I have no clue. Okay, this is kind of blowing my mind here. We have a vector. that is all of that. And the first thing it's doing is matching here. Okay, I see what's going on. First it's setting it, then I missed that comma. Then we're doing this for the pipe. So it's a 3-element vector in this case. Then we're doing another element that's going to be this stuff. We're editing JSON, not editing anything. Got it. We are clear as mud. That makes sense. Okay, then we're going to do, like, remember I told you we're going to do a paragraph. We're going to put a line in that paragraph. Then we're going to assign a block to that paragraph. And the current navigation text is what it is. Okay. Then we're going to do the exact same thing again. We're going to do a new paragraph. We're going to put a border on it and a block. Foot chunks. We're doing a new layout. Look at that. We're doing a horizontal. Constraining it by 50%. Splitting it into 2 chunks. Then we're going to render the widget for mode footer, which is the first one we did. And we're putting it into the first chunk. Then we're doing our notes footer into the second chunk. And then here we go. So we're doing... Oh, of course. Thank you for... Currently editing... Crap. Let's jump here. Anything after that? Okay. I want to come back to the exiting for sure. Okay. So next, currently editing... If there is something currently editing, we're going to do a pop-up. And we're going to create a block. And we're going to... Okay, so this is the modal pop-up. And we're going to do all the same stuff. We're doing a centered rectangle. That's interesting. We're rendering the pop-up block. Pop-up chunks are going to have stuff inside of it, the 50/50. Key block for that, active style. Okay, whatever. Okay, active for the active thing you're editing. Okay. Key text. Paragraph, we're assigning a block. Paragraph for the value, we're assigning a block, and we're rendering that widget. And since we're running this every frame, currently editing is not always going to have a value, so that's where it's turning it off. Got it. Okay. Now, there it is. This is what exists right here. Whoops. I suck at BIM. There we go. This right here, this thing right here, is exactly what I was thinking we were going to do. We're going to wipe the screen first. So that leads me back to the thing where we read that it only renders the new. And so it doesn't wipe the screen to then render something else out. So that works in the case where we are doing a new thing, and that looks awesome. But if we did Q and like now we're trying to set the person into a contact. Okay, I'm sure they did this as an example, but from a user experience perspective, this would be a good thing to be like, hey, you're about to like wipe everything away and leave. Are you sure you want to do that? What? What? Maybe I did something wrong earlier. Let's revisit this for a second. Okay. Because that just blew... All right. Quit. Would you like to... Oh. What? I have... I... Okay, so what is blowing my mind is earlier I could have sworn I ran this, hit Q, and then hit no, and it went right back into the application. That super confused me because there wasn't a code path for that. That, like, how did that ever? Anyway, it is working properly. It is doing what I expect. So I am going to edit to do here. It's doing what I expected, so let's not worry about that. All right, render widget. So we're on the exiting screen. We're clearing it. We're gonna pop up all that extra stuff. We know what it's doing by now. We're good to go. Render the widget. Centered rect. We're doing the helper function to create a centered rectangle using up certain percentage of the available. So this is just an extension of other stuff to get better layout, uniform elements. I mean, in other realms, you're gonna do like you'll have class, text area, yeah, and it's gonna have like widget there. Okay, you're doing a little too much for me here. And then in your so that's probably that's part of the framework that you're using. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna do something like class code text area, and then you're gonna do your custom stuff in here so that every time you just run it through, that's all that centered rectangle really is. It's just, hey, I want to do extra stuff, and let's take care of that. So I'm not doing it everywhere. It's just keeping things nice. So with that in mind, I think there's a decent understanding of how this application actually works. Let me just rephrase it all, and then I think we're gonna call it a night because I feel like this is a good session. All right. So in our application, we instantiate. I still don't know if that's the right word. We have boilerplate here. Whoops. Here and here to set up the TUI and tear down the TUI. And our fun times happens in these two lines here. We define our new application. This is going to hold our overall application state. If you were in a game, this would be your game's state and everything. And you're going to pass that everywhere pretty much so that you have an idea. This is like the overall state of everything going on. And again, all of that holds is, in this case, the current screen, the input values that we're going to do. In more advanced apps, we would probably do, different various input types, structs based on the type of input that you're going to do so that we could do other stuff with that later. And then those are going to have basically helper functions to help you manage dealing with your application state. I don't necessarily think toggle editing should go on here, but I can understand why you would put it there. So whatever. So based on the application state, how everything is going to pack in there, we then go to our run app function, which we wrote. And that's going to start a global loop, and every UI application has a loop, whether you see it or not. In this case, it's a little more low level because, again, every loop we're going to render a new frame. And then we go into our draw, which is everything that we just did. It's how do we lay out everything. It says, hey, we're going to create 3 chunks. We're going to have a paragraph, and we're going to attach a block. We're going to have a horizontal layout here with 2 paragraph chunks with blocks in them. We're going to use the application state to determine what text to put in each of these states or each of these places. And then when we go to exit, we're going to clear the screen. We're going to do a pop-up. and then we're gonna output stuff when we're done. So that's kind of cool. And then over here we have our control logic. That on every loop we're going to be checking for key events. In this case, we're releasing. We don't care about releasing because you really don't care about that in a UI application. And then this is just checking and matching and checking and matching and checking and matching. It can get pretty detailed. And then you're just changing application state based on the keys that you hit. And then the final interesting thing about it is that, let me cut this here. Cut. And I want it paste here. Something just happened. All right. Oops. All right. So to me, the interesting part is from here up to line 114 is as part of our application state, we have to manage when we input stuff, where does that go? In this case, we're going into a string. And then when we hit backspace, where does that go? Well, we have to remove it from that string. And this is a manual process that we have to do that in all reality, other UI applications that you're more used to for GUIs manages for you, but we have to manage it ourselves. So overall, fairly basic. I think I understand it. I think this is a good run through the code organization of a Ratatouille app and how to actually use it. I think we are set up to start creating a basic UI structure next week, and that's going to be a good time because we can have all the theory we want in here, but it's another thing to actually do it. So this is totally going to be interesting to do. Oh, sorry about that. So with that, I thank you for watching. Join me next week as we just go a little further down this road. I enjoyed kind of running through this application with you to try to understand overall what a Ratatouille application is. And I thank you for Jaime, I'm assuming is your name, for your question. And I was hoping I was able to help you on Zalish. So with that, I will see you next week and have fun and learn something.